Well, I got another package today, and it's well ahead of schedule. So we'll get it opened up and we'll have a look what's in there. Hi everybody, I'm Greg, and you're watching Two Old Guys with Crossbows. Well, this is what I got in that package today. It's my new compressor for pumping up the PCP. Goes up to 4,500. Came with extra fittings and such, which I've installed a couple of things. These are my bleed valves on either side. I've already put the breather on. I put oil in. Took about 8 ounces of oil. There's a pressure gauge, a liquid pressure gauge on top. Has a temperature 18.9 Celsius in here right now. This is where the water fittings will hook up. You're going to send a pair of white gloves with it, so you make sure you keep it clean. The owner's manual is in English, but it's pretty basic. I would recommend watching some YouTubes. This is your filter that's going to go onto the line going into the gun. It came with some of these filters. As you can see, there's little round foam ones there, and then these little things that look like cigarette filters. And there's one of them, plus a couple of extra O-rings for the filter. Over here we have the submersible pump for the water and the hoses, and then I guess my quick connect pressure line to attach to the gun. I do have to take this apart and put the filter on there. Shows you that in the instruction manual. Oh, and it came with a rubber mat to set on the floor, so it's not quite so loud vibrating around. That's just other packing stuff down there from the box it came in. But that's it. This is the Yong Heng, really, but it's just made by somebody else. Weighs about 35 pounds. It seems like a sturdy unit, but we'll get it all hooked up and going and see how it pressurizes that air Venturi air gun. This is basically the Yong Heng compressor, but this is a Chinese knockoff of a Chinese knockoff. I've had it for a couple weeks now and I tried it. Up here it is water cooled. I put an ice pack in the water there. It's going to focus or not. But right now we're sitting at about 10 degrees Celsius. I've got the gun hooked up. It's got a little moisture filter on the hose and everything, but I thought I would show you how long it takes to fill up the gun. But I won't go up to 4,000 psi or 4,300, which my gun will hold. I'll probably only take it up to about 3,000 because I don't know when I'm going to get out to shoot this. I have drained it at one point, and I reset the regulator and everything, and I'm just itching to get out there and do some target shooting with this. But anyways, try not to make this too shaky. I'm doing all this one-handed. Gotta flip her on. That's how noisy it is. There's the bleed valve. There you go. Pressure's starting to go up. See that temperature rising already. It's very hot, very fast. Shut her off. Open up my bleeders. I don't know how much of this I'm going to have to edit because I was switching hands and moving the camera around, not watching the screen. I was watching the compressor. Do not touch these tubes. They get very hot. They will burn you. But the head is still touchable. That's where the water flows through. It's very cold right here. It's warmer up here. But it's cool to the touch. I'll let the water circulate through there a bit and keep cooling it down. Yes, it is water cooled and oil lubricated. This does not run on 12 volt. This is 110 volt. So you need a wall to plug it into. But that's what I got, and that's about how long it takes to fill up the gun. And the gun was sitting at about 1200 psi, I believe. And now they're going to focus. There you go. Doesn't take long to fill the gun up at all. Well, there you have it. My new compressor to fill up the air gun. I made some points here so I don't forget what I want to talk about. During the sound reduction of the compressor, I did reduce that sound down to 16% so you didn't have to listen to that compressor. It is fairly noisy, but what I was talking about, and I probably shouldn't even have tried to talk during that part, but I was talking about the temperature. The temperature climbs very quickly. The first time I used that compressor, I just had cold water in the tub that was circulating through, and it went right up to 53, almost 60 Celsius. Within like the minute that it runs, and I don't think that's a good thing. You want to keep it cool. So I seen other videos where guys had added ice to their cooling water to keep the head cooler, and yeah, it works. You can see that it got up to what, 43 Celsius, which is a good workable temperature. Another thing about that compressor is, in the owner's manual, it does not give a recommendation for what oil to use. And what I used was this. Now, I don't know if this is going to focus for you or not, but it is just a 2-stage compressor oil. It's a synthetic. I picked it up at Princess Auto. And the compressor holds about 8 ounces of oil. Now, I've seen other videos where guys were recommending to use hydraulic oil, hydraulic lubricating oil, but you know, I even called the dive shop, our local dive shop in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan here, and I talked to him, and he says No, like they use a synthetic compressor oil in their compressor, which is recommended by their manufacturer. When you think about it, it is just a crankcase that's turning the piston up and down. This crankcase does not have any bearings in it, so yeah, you want a good oil in there. And hydraulic oil to me is not really a lubricating oil, like, so I went with that recommendation. I went with the 2-stage compressor oil. That's just me. You can do what you want. Or again, if your manufacturer has a recommendation, stick to what they recommend. I've talked about the temperature. Yes, by putting the ice pack in the water, it kept the head about 10 degrees Celsius cooler. All my temperatures are in Celsius because we're in Canada and everything's in Celsius here. Fahrenheit, well, but 53 Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius in Fahrenheit is about 160 degrees, I believe. So I think as long as you keep your compressor running under engine temperatures, under boiling temperatures, you're going to be okay. Now, I don't have a pony bottle, and some guys might want to buy this compressor to fill pony bottles. So they have a pony bottle to take into the field to add air to their gun. And I don't have one yet. I may get one in the future, depending on finances and everything else. But if you're going to fill a pony bottle, it's going to take more time with that compressor, and I would recommend really watching that temperature and not letting it get too hot. I've seen guys running the Yong Hengs and stuff for about 15 minutes and then shutting them off, letting the head cool down and then starting them up again to fill their pony bottles. And I would recommend the same with this compressor too. As I said, there is no bearing in there for driving that piston up and down. It is just a rod onto the spinning shaft, and the oil is the only thing that's lubricating that. There's no bearing in there to lubricate. And if you wear that out, you're going to have to rebuild your compressor, which you can find on YouTube too. I've seen guys tear them down and rebuild them because you can get the parts for all this stuff. Now, the pressure connection, I made an error. I said it was the gun was sitting at about 1200 psi. I was wrong. It was at about 2000 psi. And the end pressure, when I was done compressing that gun, was about 3600. And you can see it took about 44 seconds to go from 2000 psi to 3600 psi on the tank on that gun. If you notice in the video too, as it starts to compress, you'll see the needle on the pressure gauge going up, and then also it drops back, and that's where the valve of the gun opened up and it started to push pressure into the gun, because it has to get the hose pressure and everything up to that 2000 psi before the valve will open into the gun. And once that opened, it dropped back and then it climbed up. And I didn't have my glasses on. I really didn't want to take it as high as I did, but according to my gauge on the compressor, I was pushing almost 4000 psi already at 44 seconds. So yes, it does it quickly, and you have to watch it. I put an actual time up there in the corner of the video so you can watch the seconds tick off from the time I close the valves to the time I shut the compressor off. Another thing I'd like to add about this compressor is I was going to wait. I really didn't want to fork out $400 to buy a compressor for this gun, since I just purchased the gun, and I live on a fixed budget now. I'm retired, and I have to watch what I spend. But the thing is I went online to look at the Yong Hengs and all these compressors that before were selling for around $300 American, which is, you know, about $400 Canadian. And there wasn't a lot there anymore. The Yong Hengs are up to over $500 Canadian and everything. So I did buy this compressor off eBay, Amazon.ca. I went on there and I was searching like eBay, I was searching Amazon, I was searching a bunch of sites looking for a compressor that was still at that reasonable price. and I found this one on Amazon.ca, and it said 2 left, and it was listed for $339 Canadian. There was free shipping included, but with the tax and everything, it was still under $400. I think it was $385 when it was said and done. And right after I bought that same ad, I would put a link for you, but they aren't that price anymore. They have jumped to $569. With the inflation, the things that are coming out of China are jumping. All the new stuff that's coming out of China it's crazy. It's jumping way up. So I do recommend, if you're thinking about getting a compressor, I would start looking and put the money together to get one now. You can still find one for the old price, because any of the new ones that are coming in are way up. Just a little tip. Another thing I would like to do at the end of this, I'd like to give out another shout out to Canada Shooting Supply for getting this gun to me as quickly as they did. And one of the other things I like about Canada Shooting Supply is you can actually make your payments, if you're Canadian, through e-transfer. I'm not a big believer in credit cards, and so I don't have any. I don't use them anymore. I got rid of all my credit cards because I don't want to go into debt anymore. I'm at that stage in life where I'm trying to be self-sufficient, and if I can't buy it cash, or if I don't have the cash to buy it, I don't buy it. Simple as that. Now, another thing that I wanted to point out about Canada Shooting Supply is when you do an e-transfer purchase, you get an extra 2% off for paying that way. And also, if you go there to buy anything and you say that you heard it here, you'll get a 5% discount on your purchase. So thank you very much, Canada Shooting Supply. So anyways, a little bit shorter video this week. I hope this helps people out. But there you go, the Chinese knockoff of a Chinese knockoff high pressure compressor. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please give it a like and share it. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. See you all next time.